Hi there, this is Brett from Lightning Tools, and welcome to another webinar. This webinar, we're going to be talking about our form suite, basically. So we've got a number of different products that we're going to be discussing. First of all, we're going to be talking about a migration tool, which is the Lightning Tools Form Migrator, which we're going to be taking a look at how we can migrate from existing forms that you may have inside of your organization. These could be PDF forms or InfoPath forms, Nintex forms, etc. And you're looking to take those into SharePoint Online or even another version of SharePoint on premises. And not only that, but take them into either something like the Lightning Forms product or Lightning Tools Form Studio, which we're also going to be taking a look at today, or even something like Power Apps or Skybo or something along those lines as well. Once we've looked at the migrator, which will take a small amount of time, we're going to dive into some of the other products. So again, Lightning Forms, we're just going to show you around the product. We'll also do the same thing with the Lightning Tools Form Studio, so you fully understand the differences. And then we will jump into our solution that we're going to be showing off today, which is the contract approvals and document creation using Microsoft 365. So this is going to be a mechanism where we can manage the contracts that we're issuing as an organization more easily, and that's something that you can do as an individual. You can see all the different contracts that you've issued, when they're going to be renewing, etc., those that have expired, and so on. So we'll talk more about that solution once we get to that point. So that's what to expect. Before we dive into that, just a quick intro to Lightning Tools. So we're a company based in the UK. We've also got our US office as well, which is based out in Orlando, Florida. We've been established now since 2007, and throughout that time, we've been building a number of different products that are all designed to help you be more efficient with inside of Microsoft SharePoint primarily. So these include our permissions management tool known as DeliverPoint. That's a tool that is catering for site owners as well as administrators to be able to report, manage on permissions a lot more effectively. We've also got the forms and automation, of course, which we're going to be focusing on today. And then besides that, we've also got our content aggregation tool, data visualization, and also discussion board software as well. So all of these tools are available independently, but can also be purchased as a suite as well if need be. We are an ISO certified company, so it's ISO 27001, also ISO 9001 as well. So we're covered from the information security and also the quality standpoints. And of course, we're a Microsoft partner as well. So on to today's content. So like I said, we've got a fair amount to get through. Just to point out that if you do have questions or comments throughout the webinar today, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A panel. And some of my staff are online, some of our team members, so they'll be able to respond to you if they have an answer for you. If not, when we get to the very end of the webinar, I'll also be able to read out some of the questions and answers that you have. Yeah, we're going to jump in straight away to the form migrator first of all. So we're just going to spend a few minutes on that and how that might help you. So a lot of organizations already have forms. We need to look at potentially the issue of things like InfoPath being deprecated, but also the efficiency and the security around things like PDF forms, where maybe they're being sent to people, they're being scanned or printed and scanned and then sent back, and there's a risk that they're not always being stored in a secure way, and the content inside those forms could reach into the wrong hands, things like that, and what to do about it. And one of the things we can do about it is actually migrate those across to Lightning Forms or Lightning Tools Form Studio, or like I say, also something like Power Apps if you wanted to as well. Albeit today we're going to be focused primarily on Lightning Tools Form Studio and Lightning Forms. And there are some differences between those two solutions, so I will be talking about that as well initially, showing you around the products and what they're capable of before, like I say, diving into our live demonstration of a contract management solution, which we'll be exploring. All right, so first of all, the subject of InfoPath, to cover that one off briefly. So InfoPath is a product that's been around for quite some time. I remember as a trainer writing materials back in the early 2000s on InfoPath, and yeah, it was a great product for designing some forms. So people built expense claim forms and all sorts of things using InfoPath. And it was a tool that was designed not just for IT to be able to build out solutions, but it also empowered business user to be able to build out their own forms as well. And of course, one of the things you could do is publish those out to a SharePoint form library or a document library using the relevant content type. And by completing that form in that environment inside of SharePoint Form Library, it would effectively generate XML files, which would be stored inside that document library, and certain elements of those XML files would be promoted as columns, as metadata inside of the document library itself. So it looked like a view of the data coming from the form. And some of the challenges that we have there with the end of life of InfoPath looming, it's almost a year to the day, so it's going to be July 2026. Within that period, if you're using SharePoint on premises, then the InfoPath will be effectively unsupported. If you're using SharePoint Online, it won't work. So that's one of the challenges that we need to start facing. So the support is officially ending, as I mentioned, and that leads into both security and also compatibility risks as well around that data and being able to open that data. So if we were trying to stay compliant, for example, we would need to make sure that we have something that we can open up those XML files with, and this is where the migrator may be able to help you. So it's not just always InfoPath. There's, like I said, things like PDF forms, maybe Word or Excel forms, and there's also other third-party legacy vendors as well that you may have outlived for whatever reason from SharePoint on-premises days, and you're looking to migrate those over to something to help future-proof and build a sort of more modern form where you can collect data. So we're just going to jump into that before we get into Lightning Forms and show you how this could be a mechanism for you to migrate not just your form design, but also your form data as well over to SharePoint Online. And again, either use something like a Canvas app with Power Apps, or use something like Lightning Forms or Lightning Tools Form Studio. So what you can see here, I've got the Lightning Tools Form Migrator open, and what we're going to do is migrate a form and also some data across to this site, which I created just moments before I hit start on the webinar. So you'll see here the lists and libraries are just the default lists and libraries that you get with a brand new SharePoint site, and you can see the date and time that they were created and so on. And if we just reload that, you'll see that there's no tricks up my sleeve. I haven't already migrated any of this content, so it's going to be a live demo, and therefore I reserve the right for things to go wrong. So what we're going to do is just jump into the migrator again, and what I can do is click onto this add forms button, and the add forms button allows me to add forms in two different ways. I can either have it discover InfoPath forms inside of my environment, which may have been published to a form library or to a document library with content type, or I can also navigate to the file system as well if I'm just concerned about the actual form design. So whether it's a PDF again or an InfoPath form and so on. What I'm going to do first of all is just pick on the file system, open up this file picker, and as we navigate, never mind, I'll come back to just the other one. First demo failing already. I just need to spend more time looking at that. Let's just go with this option. So I'm just going to discover some forms from this location here, PTO InfoPath, and I've already authenticated with this SharePoint site. So you can see when I test the location, it's all legit, it's working. And what I can do is just add the forms from that environment. And it's discovered inside of that site collection 2 different form libraries. So when we choose OK, it's inviting me to analyze them and read those forms. And by analyzing them, it's going to give me an idea as to how many views, how many fields, how many data source connections is going to be, perhaps how many repeating sections, and so on there are. And all we need to do is basically click onto select all and then analyze, and it will discover all of that information for me. Okay, so we've gathered that. Let's just try one more time to add the other form in. I was hoping I would see that a little bit more obviously. Let's just come here. There we go. And we've got the employment application form, which I wanted to use. So this is just going to allow me to add that one form into my environment. And once again, we can analyze that to determine how many fields there are, etc. Now, with each of these, we can preview them. So when I hit the preview, it will render the form exactly how it was inside of InfoPath or inside the PDF form layout. And if I just point out some of the obvious things we've got here, obviously a title, we've got a logo, we've got a mixture of different column layouts going from 1 to 2 to 3 columns wide. We've also got repeating sections for things like education, references, previous employment, and so on as well. So we can obviously have many rows of data associated with one record, if you like. So we've got the employment application with multiple previous employment history and multiple references, etc. So we can see the form is working in that environment. Likewise with these are actually simpler forms, which is why I wanted to show you the XSN individually. But if I read and preview PTO requests, you can see it's a lot more basic, but it contains some data, and we're also going to migrate some of that data as well. So you can see how we can preview each of those. So I'm going to take this employment application. First of all, let's just hit write. We're going to write out to Lightning Forms, and I've generated that new site, as you know. So what we're going to do is just grab the site URL. So let's just obtain the link to our SharePoint site here, and we'll jump back into the migrator. We're just going to paste that in. We'll authenticate and test my connection for this, and that may be prompted for multi-factor authentication, so I'm just going to be armed, ready for that. Okay, so yes, that's me. Just using my face. There we go. And we should now be able to create that connection and hit go, which is now going to once again authenticate me. And now it's building the SharePoint lists. It's also building the SharePoint forms, and these are going to be using Lightning Forms. We could also use with the Lightning Tools Form Studio. So this is a great starting point. We don't have to start from scratch. If we want to rebuild forms, we can migrate those forms and the data over to Lightning Forms and SharePoint if we want to. So it's done. Let's just close that down, and we'll jump back in to SharePoint here. Let's reload our site. And you can see here we've got those lists generated. I'm going to open up the first one, which is the employment application list. And we're just going to give this a bit of a refresh. And when we hit add new item, you'll be able to see that we have a new form open up exactly how this looked in InfoPath. So taking it from that XSN over to SharePoint, and we can already start using it and collecting that data. If we do want to bring the data across as well, obviously that was just a form design. What I could do is pick on one of these other ones. Let's also write that out to the same place. So I'm going to point that again at webinar, hit go. And we'll just give that a few seconds more. We'll pick the account that we want to deploy to. So you can see it's writing the form, it's creating the list, and deploying that form. So same thing. If we navigate back to the contents of this particular site, you can see we've now got a list called contact. So it's generated a list rather than a form library. And then the final stage, we can jump back in here and hit convert. And what convert is going to do is match the fields from both the source site and the destination site. And when we hit start migration, that is going to migrate our content, of which there's just a few rows for the purpose of saving time. And if we refresh now, you'll see that that data has come across. So with that tool, it's a great starting point to then jump into Lightning Forms or Lightning Tools Forms Actions, where we can start to work on those form designs even further if we want to, or just use them as they are. All right, so we're just going to shut down that site and let's move on to some of the other products that we're going to be taking a look at today. So like I said, we're going to take a look at two main products. One of them is Lightning Forms and the other one is Lightning Tools Forms Studio. And really the differences are coming down to who's actually going to build out your forms. So if you're looking at empowering the business user in the same way that InfoPath was, then Lightning Forms is useful because you've actually got a contextual design experience where you can navigate into a SharePoint site, build out the SharePoint lists that you would like, and then you can customize those forms using Lightning Forms. And as we go through some demonstrations of this, I'm going to point out some of the benefits that you have over things like the out-of-the-box SharePoint Form Designer, which you get with Microsoft SharePoint. And there's been some recent enhancements to that. In fact, some of them we called out in a recent blog post as well. So we'll be taking a look at Lightning Forms, how that can be the destination for an InfoPath replacement, but can also be used, of course, to build a form from scratch as well, which is something that we'll be looking at doing. And it doesn't just give you the ability to improve the layout of the forms, but also add lots of actions and automation to those forms as well in terms of calculations or action buttons and rules, etc. The Lightning Tools Form Studio is intended more for centralized form design. So what we can do with that product is as a solution builder, and a solution, note I use the word solution and not necessarily just form. The solution could contain multiple SharePoint lists. It could contain a site with different assets, different action buttons inside the list, as well as inside the forms, etc., in order to be building some sort of form-based solution, which is what we'll be looking at here. And the idea is that this is something that we can build centrally, we can test centrally, and then we get to package it and deploy it across to one or more sites if that's what our intention is. So something like expense claim forms, we could build centrally and then deploy to all of the different places where we want that to be used. A lot of the functionality is the same as what you get with Lightning Forms. It's just that more centralized design. Of course, you've got the package and deployment mechanisms, but you also get things like server-side calculations. You get scheduled and triggered workflows as well, which we'll be diving into and obviously taking a look at. All right, so like I say, Lightning Forms, you can build a responsive modern SharePoint form. It's going to be based on a SharePoint list. You can add the conditional logic and automation, and you've also got the ability to configure list actions as well using Lightning Tools Actions, which is something else that we'll be taking a look at. And then for Lightning Tools Form Studio, this is where you can centralize your design and automation and then deploy many times. And that includes, which I didn't mention, applying permissions to the deployment as well. So again, everything that can come together in order to be able to build a solution. So that's it for PowerPoint slides. We're going to jump into SharePoint right now. And we'll have a quick walkthrough through the solution that we'll be building. In fact, we'll do that in just a moment. Let's first of all take a look at what you can do with Lightning Forms and Lightning Tools Forms Actions. So in order to do that, we are just going to spin up another quick new SharePoint site. And we'll just use the standard template. And we're just going to call this webinar demo. And we're going to start off with a fresh SharePoint list, and I'll use that fresh SharePoint list in order to show you around Lightning Forms, what the capabilities are, and then we'll compare and contrast that with the Lightning Tools Form Studio and take a look at the solution that we're going to be building today. So when we hit new, we can generate a new SharePoint list, and there's multiple ways of building a SharePoint list now. You can actually start off with the form design if you want to. That's using SharePoint out of the box. We're actually going to use a template, which is going to be this expense tracker template. So we're just going to use that one, and I'm happy with the name expense tracker. And so you can see we have the new SharePoint list, and what you'll notice on the command bar of that SharePoint list is the Lightning Forms button. So with Lightning Forms, as long as you are a site owner, you can click onto that button and you'll be able to see each of the forms that make up your SharePoint list. So we've of course got the new form for generating new items, the edit form for editing items, and the display form for, of course, displaying items. And you've also got the ability to add additional forms if you want to. So sometimes you might need some sort of section for configuration or approval or something like that, where it needs to be a separate ASPX form. And that's something you can create, and then you can open that via an action button. So we're just going to hit customize on the new form, and that will give me this contextual form design experience. So we'll just give that a moment to load. So we're straight into the design. We've still got the context of being within SharePoint, and you'll notice everything inside this section here is all to do with the form design. So when we go into the form settings, one of the things you'll see there is the ability to control the layout of the form. So how wide do we want the side panel? Do we want it full screen or go for a larger layout, etc. There's also multiple options like bulk edit and things like that with inside the views that we can show or hide. That can be down to sort of field security reasons. You'll notice that we've also got actions. So under actions, if we just go into the command bar actions, for example, you're going to see that we've got a save and a cancel action button in here. So it's very easy to generate our own action button. If we want to do something more than just saving and canceling, we could have, for example, submitting. And when we submit, we're able to choose an icon, build a visible expression, an enabled expression, and then configure our actions. So some reasons for having things like the enabled or the visible expression, it could be down to, are you a member of a specific SharePoint group, or was a certain field filled out appropriately on the form? So we can always jump into this expression builder and build in the condition that is going to evaluate to true or false as to whether that button should be enabled or not. So it could be, again, like the expense claim is less than a certain amount. So if we said the expense claim is less than 1,000, that is then our rule as to when we display that button or not. Alternatively, it could be under the contextual objects, and this is one of the benefits of having the context of being inside of SharePoint. I could say, is the current user a member of a specific SharePoint group? So this could be a SharePoint group, or it could also be a security group as well. So just double clicking onto that would allow me to put in the name of the group. So the group could be something like approvers, and that would be our logic again as to whether that button should display or not. And notice that we also have this thing called has permission as well. So that's one of the other things. We don't want this button showing up if the user doesn't actually have the permission to click it. So we could just make sure that they have the relevant permission first of all before that button showing. So when we configure the actions, you'll notice there's various different actions in here that we have. Submitting this form would involve, first of all, saving it. We may set a status to say that the status is now pending. We could send an email as part of the action. So we're just going to double click onto that. I'm not going to fill all these out in the interest of time, but we have got a send email action. And notice we can also do things like generating Word documents, converting to PDF as well, and also moving documents around and things like that. So just sort of showing you the plumbing at this point of what we could do. I think I'll get away with it. Oh, we'll get away with it. Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, so we've got now a new submit button, although that button will probably break if I click it. In the form layout, you have the ability to create different sections. So notice in here we've got things like tabs that we can add. We can specify how many tabs we want. We can label those tabs accordingly and so on. So we could have expense details, for example, as one of those tabs. Again, choose a relevant icon, and we can also set the visible or enabled property for that as well. And each of these tabs, you can control the form layout. So notice that we can go to a 2-column layout, and that gives me the ability to drag and drop these fields into the relevant sections of that form and so on. So more of the plumbing, we can also get into each of the expressions against each item, whether it's a field, whether it's a label, whether it's a section, a tab, it doesn't matter. We can always come through and say when this will be visible, when it'll be enabled. We can calculate a value. We can set require rules for validation and things like that as well. And then the other thing to point out is that you also have styling. So under styling, we can set generic styles. So for fields, for example, if we add a style section to our fields, we could expand that and change things like the label color. So if we change the label color to be a theme color instead of black, as we preview that, you'll notice all the labels change to the theme color and so on. And these can be also conditional as well. So against each individual field on the form, like the amount column, for example, I could add a style specifically to that one column, add a rule or a condition as to when the colors or the attributes should be changed, and change them under that circumstance. Okay, so that is just a quick tour of the capabilities of Lightning Forms, and we're going to look more in depth at what it's capable of in the solution that we've built. I will also point out there's Lightning Tools actions as well here. So just like the form actions that you can add into Lightning Forms, this will actually allow me to create an action button on the command bar of the list itself. So this could be approve all expenses, for example, or approve selected expenses. So if we just go for a check mark on that one, you'll notice that, again, we could add a visibility expression to make sure that you have permissions, you are also an approver, and then when we get to the configure actions, we could update the item and change it from whatever status it currently is at to approved. So this would render the fields, we'd find our approval section if we had one, and then set that value to approved and so on. So we've got that capability of adding the actions on the command bar as well. So that's kind of the capabilities of Lightning Forms. If we jump now into Lightning Tools Form Studio, just as a contrast, first of all, one of the ways to get into Lightning Tools Form Studio, and you can trial it today, is to just go into Form Studio on our website. So go from products to Form Studio. Once that is loaded, you're going to see this 30-day trial button, and you don't have to download anything. It's going to ask you to authenticate with your SharePoint environment, and you'll be able to start building solutions. And you can see some of the solutions that I've been building. We've got the contract management today that we'll be looking at. We've got staff onboarding, travel requests, goal tracking, etc. And these are all solutions that I can then deploy to multiple sites. So I've got the contract management already open, and we'll first of all explore the solution, and then I'm going to show you around some of the customizations that have been made using the Lightning Tools Form Studio. So if we go into here, the contract management, the whole site has been deployed by Lightning Tools Form Studio. It's not just one list, it's multiple lists. There's a lot of action buttons as well. Some of them you can see here on the page. And then we've also got a lot of logic and rules in order to be able to build a contract solution within inside of SharePoint. So first of all, we have accounts. So if we go to accounts, these are people, organizations, etc., that we might have a contract with. And there's not much in terms of customization on this one, but if we just open up something like Contoso IT Solutions, you can see this is just opening up as a generic SharePoint list. So we've just got a simple list of columns, and that's not really been customized. If we hit add new contact, again, generic form, in order to be able to fill that out and collect data. And all we're really looking at here is company details and so on. So these are the people that we may have a contract with. If we now go across to contracts, you can see that there's a number of different contracts that are then associated with those accounts. And the way that we would do that is by clicking onto new contract. And a few things that I'll point out in here, and then you'll see how they're generated. We've got a rich text section at the top, which is currently just saying new contract. Now, if this was on the read form or on the edit form, it's going to actually give you the name of that contract, and you'll see the logic in there when we get to that part. The contract number currently calculating. So Lightning Forms or Lightning Tools Form Studio is going to generate that for me. We do get to give this a subject, so we're just going to have a subject of Fabricam lease agreement. Well, let's go with partner agreement. Not that it really matters. And we then move down to the account contact. Now, any of you very familiar with SharePoint will maybe spot that typically in a lookup column, you can only have one column display. That's typically the title column. And then it's sometimes difficult to actually go through and figure out which row it is you want. Whereas notice in here, we've got the company name, the full name, and the email address in order to be able to associate that row. And we've also got the search capability as well. So whilst I can see what I'm looking for, as I start to type, we've then got that filtering down, and I can go through and choose the Fabricam manufacturing. And that is something that is delivered through Lightning Tools Form Studio. So we've got the data lookup column that we can use there. The also have ability of adding new items. So if we haven't yet created the account contact, notice we've got an action there to go through and create one, and then it will be available to select as well. We have the contract type, so much of the same thing. We're able to perform a lookup. So this is just going to be a standard agreement. We can put in the object, the contract status is active, and we've also got condition, currencies, amounts, and things like that, which are not required, but we'll just put in a figure in there anyway. And then terms of the contract. So we've got the date of signing the contract. We could say was today. The contract is going to be valid from today. Now, in here is where we're going to learn more as we go along. You'll see that we've got some triggers, some scheduled actions that are going to look for the expiration of these contracts, remind us to renew them or automatically renew them, and so on, based on what we specify here. So if I say there is no end date, then of course the cancellation wouldn't necessarily occur automatically, but what we can do is go through and set a cancellation mode on that if we want to. Notice we've got those hide when fields. So these can be done for all sorts of reasons. It could be down to SharePoint groups that you're a member of, or it could be like this one, rendering based on the choice of another field, and so on. We're going to choose an end date. So we just make that a few months from now, and the notice period that is given on this contract. We can then go to documents, and this is where we can actually upload contracts. So there's a number of different contracts in here. I said I was looking for a lease agreement or just some kind of agreement, doesn't really matter. Let's just go with that one. So we can upload it, and we can then upload all the contracts that we perhaps want to have associated with this particular account as well. And we've then got that ability of saving that row. Okay, so that is saved. It's then taken me to display it. Again, that logic is being driven through Lightning Tools Forms actions. We've got the title has changed to now actually render the account contact. So we've got that in the subjects there, and we've also got this conditional status as well, showing me that this is in fact active, and so on. So we could then cancel the contract if we want to. We could also replace the contract with a new one, and these are some of the actions we can also jump into and have a look at. So all of that logic is being built in. When we're inside the list view itself, notice when I select not just one, but many many rows, we've got actions in here, such as replace contract and cancel contract as well. So we can bulk manage some of these contracts. And there's also different views like my contracts and any active contracts and contracts nearing a deadline and so on. Okay, so that's the solution that we're looking to show. When we get back to the home page of this solution, you'll notice that there's also some action buttons in here, so we can add a new contact. Add a new contract. We can show all contracts and show all accounts all directly there, but there's also some views showing me things like contracts reaching certain deadlines and that type of thing as well. So that was all built in Lightning Tools Form Studio. And here inside of Lightning Tools Form Studio, remember, this is the environment where you can build out the solution and then you can package it and you can deploy it. And that packaging, you're effectively building a SharePoint framework package that can then be deployed to many SharePoint sites and deploy them on that basis. And then you've got the full sort of versioning and everything that you can do from here to maintain those as well. So inside of this solution, these are my lists. So we've got the contracts, we've got account, contacts, and then contract types as well. And each of these we're doing some lookups to and from. There's also some hidden lists as well that are deployed, which have some configuration and assets. And then there's also an administration page, which is that button that had the action buttons on there I just showed you a moment ago. And optionally, there could be also SharePoint groups and permissions assigned, as well as logos and things like that, which you can deploy through the look and feel. So here in the form, we've got, or in the list, we've got the three forms: the display form, the new form, and the edit form. And then we've also got a view as well called all contracts. So we're going to first of all navigate to the new form. So that's going to load up the form in the design mode. And everything in here is exactly the same as what you just saw inside of Lightning Forms. It's just that tool is no longer contextual within inside the site itself that you're building the solution on. You're building it in a centralized way, and then you're deploying to the site where you want to use it. So to talk you through it, what we've got here under form settings, you can see that it's generating a large form. It needs to be large just because of the width of the form with these multiple tabs and things like that. We've then got a lot of styling going on. So notice this section here where it's applying that banner. That banner may actually be a different color in certain circumstances. So if we scroll down to that row, so here's the row here, so the first row on the form. As we expand that, you can see if the contract is active, it's going to be a specific color, and if it's not active, it's going to be again the color that you're currently seeing there. So you can go through and configure each of those colors and those conditions based on whether you want to see that styling or not. So that's just being applied retrospectively. We're then using the rich text section, which is styled as a header. These are really useful to get logic or text onto the form. So when we click onto the plus button, you'll notice that we can come down here to the rich text. That rich text control, you can click onto edit source and add JavaScript if you want to, or you can just put in some logic, and anything in square brackets like this is effectively where you're getting the logic. So that could be displaying a field on the form or something a little bit more advanced. So this is just basically going to either say the title of the form, sorry, the title field, or it's going to render new contract, as you saw. So within the fields itself, first of all, we've got two different tabs. The first tab, we have the contract number. And if we have a look at that, you can see that enabled is false, so people can't overwrite the value. And the initial value, it says it's calculating. So again, people have got a visual clue as to not to override that, because that is going to be generated when we save the form. Subject is just a vanilla field. If we come down here to account contact and get into the field configuration of that one, you can see that this is an enhanced lookup column. So rather than just the standard SharePoint lookup column, which has the limitation of only being able to look up from a list within inside the current site, an advanced lookup column would actually be able to go through and look up from other SharePoint sites. We can even get to external data now as well. And you'll notice that the columns are configured to show more than one column. So that's another limitation of a SharePoint lookup column, is it can actually only display one column of information. So we've got three columns selected. The primary search column we have, so you can search by name, but actually you can check any index column. You could also add a filter to that as well if you wanted to. So if you wanted the lookup to be dynamic based on another column selection, such as we wanted to look at accounts from a certain region, the region could be through to the lookup filter. So when we go into here, you can actually go through and configure your filter value. So you've got the drop down fields in here, and then we can use the operator and again take a value from another field or set a static value, whatever you want to do, and it will limit the items that are then returned inside that lookup column. All right, so we've got a couple of those, the same sort of thing going on for contract status. That's another lookup column or an enhanced lookup column. So that's specified in here. And we've then got the terms of the contract. So if we take a look here at the end date, you can see that there's a visibility control. So when is it going to be visible? And it's also got a required field as well that is going to render an error should we not specify a date within there. And yeah, we've got the other fields as well that we spoke about. And also inside the tab, when we do upload contracts, the title itself is, if we jump into the expression builder, you'll see that that is actually able to go down to the sublist. So if we expand our sublist section in here, it's going to the contract documents, which is an embedded document library, and it's doing a count on the number of names of the documents. So that you don't need to be concerned about whatsoever in terms of how to do that. Notice that we can just simply expand the file leaf ref and say we want to do a count of that, and it's returning that expression. So we're actually getting the count within inside the tab as to how many documents actually exist within there. So it just had the word documents prefixing that with the count following it. Okay, so that's how we can then display those numbers within there. And the library itself is embedded simply by coming to your SharePoint list and libraries that live inside the site. So if I wanted to embed this document library, for example, we just click onto that and it will be embedded on the same form, and we just get to create the logic as to when that should be or how that should be related to the main item, and that is via a lookup column that we can also generate from within there. Okay, so that's our main form. So in here we've seen some of the different controls around tabs and lookup columns and so on. And you can see there's slightly different logic when we go to things like the edit form versus the display form and so on as well. So each of those can be configured accordingly. Some of this is in the rich text. It's showing you when that deadline is going to be. So it's very visible in the document itself. Okay, so that's the new form, the edit form. When we jump into things in the background, you'll notice in here that we've got columns where we can set back-end calculations on the columns, but we've also got scheduled actions, triggered actions, and then the packaging options as well. So we're just going to jump into the scheduled actions, and this is where we've got some of the actions that are able to take place on a timed period with a filter as well. So notice we've got a deadline reminder. So when you go through to adding a button, you'll get to give it a title. You can configure the filter. So in here, it's making sure that the deadline is today and the contract is active. So if that occurs, this action will be running every single day. If that filter is then met by one of the items, then it will. So there's the schedule, so it's running every day at a certain time, and then the action is to send an email to the contract owner, and you can see in here it's saying that that contract can now be cancelled, and yeah, there's some logic inside that email as well that will be sent to the end user or to the contract owner. And we've also got a history log as well of how many times that successfully ran. There's also the ability to extend contracts. So once again, if we have a look at the expression in here, you can see that this is looking for the no end date being set to yes, contract status being active, and the cancellation mode is set to ongoing. So if that's the case, then that is again the trigger for the actions. If we have a look at the actions, you can see that that's just got an update to basically increment that renewal date to a later period. And this is something where you're not just using standard expressions, you can also get into some functions as well if you want to, so you can add a lot more logic to the forms that you're creating. So we've got the scheduled actions. There aren't any triggered actions in this scenario, but we could add a trigger action. So if somebody came and updated the terms of the contract or something along those lines, that could be the trigger. So we'll just give this a name of test. And you'll see here that we've got item added or item updated or added and updated. And that in itself could then configure a routine of different actions. And again, we could maybe update the contract owner through email to inform them that something inside that contract has changed, etc. Okay, so we'll just close that down, and we're going to click onto package. So we'll just discard the changes if we'd made any. I don't think we had. So you can see the package in here is being created. So when you do create a new package, you're effectively giving it a name and a solution icon, and it will then package everything in terms of the lists, the libraries, all of the form designs, any assets that you've also specified in permissions can all go inside that package there. And once you're ready, you can then publish that package to a site where you want to use it. So I've already published this one, but what we could do is actually hit publish again to publish it to a newly created site. So we have our webinar demo site that we used earlier on with that migration. Let's just grab that. So that's where we're going to deploy it to, and we just call this contract management. Okay, so there's going to be a verification to make sure that it hasn't already been published to this particular SharePoint site, in which case we can control what would happen in that scenario. We can exclude certain assets from being deployed again if need be, but if we're happy, we can deploy everything that is packaged here to our solution. So this could also be going to different tenants as well. It doesn't always have to be the same tenant if you're licensed to do so. All right, so in a moment, we'll set that running, and then we're just going to go through and extend our solution. So let's just do a standard deployment here. This is everything that will be deployed. So SharePoint groups, all the forms, all the fields, site assets, etc. We'll start deployment and leave that to run. So meanwhile, while that's running, let's just jump back into our contract management site. And we'll have a look at some of the other things that have been deployed here. So this here is actually Lightning Tools Actions, which is part also of Lightning Tools Form Studio. So you'll notice if I edit this page here, we see the Lightning Tools Actions, and we can go into the properties of that, choose different styles of buttons. So if we wanted to change this to tiles, we can do so. You can add the styling, etc., to those styles, to those tiles as well. And of course, we can go through and add our own buttons and so on as well. So the buttons don't have to just live inside the form or at the top of the SharePoint list view. You can actually add them via a web part onto a page as well, and then effectively drive your entire solution from those action buttons. So you get to give it a name, again, when it's visible, when it's enabled, and you've got the same suite of actions that you get with the other products. So yeah, sending emails, opening up different forms, you've even got in certain circumstances other Microsoft 365 actions as well, which could be things like Teams notifications and so on that you may want to create. Okay, so we've got those, and what we're going to do is actually build our own action from scratch. So I know a lot of this demonstration is being showing you something already built, but what we are going to do is actually go into our accounts view, and we're going to actually have this generate a contract. So some of the information that we would need from the account would go into the contract. So things like the company or the organization name, the first name, the last name, business phone number, etc. So what I'm going to do is just show you that I have a document which I created. So this, and within inside my Word document, this is a non-disclosure agreement. You'll see that I've got these square braces again. So double square brackets with the word title in there. And then we've also got work country, which is a field, work address, which is another field. So we can generate this Word document and effectively do like a mail merge from the SharePoint list item or list items over to the document itself, generate that document and store it or open it. So we're just going to close that down. And the way that we could do that is either inside of Lightning Tools Form Studio, or we can also use Lightning Tools Actions as well, if we want to do it contextually. So when we click onto that, I can add a new button in here that says Create NDA. And we'll choose an icon. So yeah, there we go. It's a lightning bolt, it will do. And notice when we're creating this, that we can have this work on the entire list, which obviously we don't necessarily want to do. It could be a single selected item, or it could be also multiple selected items as well. Again, we might want to check for when we want that to be visible. So does the user have permission, for example? So if we go into the context objects against the user, we can say has permission to add items inside the current list, something along those lines. So that could be our condition there. And then the actions that we want, what we're looking for here is actually a generate Word document. Again, this is an action that is optional with Lightning Tools Form Studio or optional with Lightning Forms or Lightning Tools Actions, or you also get it with Lightning Tools Form Studio as well. But this is where I can upload my document. So once I've created that Word document, I've already put it there by the looks of things, so I'm just going to overwrite it. And then we can have it open up with multiple items from our account, account contacts. It's just going to go on the selected item, so I don't need a query. And we're going to use this view here, the all account contacts. The target is to save them to a document library. And that document library I'm going to save them to is just the standard document library. The file name will go with the title column -nda.docx. And if that already exists, we'll overwrite it. Okay, so let's okay that one and save. And now we'll select a few of these and notice our create NDA button. Let's click that. And something happened. We can add to that button with something to show that we were successful. So let's just go into the site contents in here, into the document library, and we can see there's 3 documents present generated a few seconds ago, and they are NDAs where that data would have been merged into the actual Word document. So let's just try and open that. Oh, that didn't quite work as intended. It's not picked up the fields, but anyway, hopefully you've seen enough to trust me that that does work. But yeah, that's how we can generate those documents, and then we could also associate those documents with one of the accounts as well. Okay, so I know this is a whirlwind of information, but hopefully what it has given you is a bit of background of what is possible with Lightning Tools Form Studio, what is possible with Lightning Forms, also the migrator, and how we can use that to migrate existing forms over to SharePoint. If you want to get into more depth, or if you want to see a specific scenario, I think the best way of doing that is to book a demo. Through our website, you're going to see a book a demo button in multiple places. So just feel free to book a demo with me. It will land in my calendar. You're invited to add a scenario, so what type of form are you looking to build, etc. And we can certainly go through and build that scenario as a proof of concept. If you can't wait to get your hands on it, you can also download a trial of Lightning Forms. You can start your trial with Lightning Tools Form Studio as well, which was going to the Form Studio page and clicking that 30-day trial button. And of course, if you've got any questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out as well. Just a bit of information on our next webinar, which will be taking place in a month's time. That is going to be based on the migrator. And we're going to get into a lot more depth in the migrator. I'm not going to actually show any of the Lightning Forms or the Lightning Tools Form Studio in that one. We're just going to be focused on Power Apps and what you can do with that. All right, so I see in the chat there was a bit of back and forth chat, mostly to do with whether this was recorded or not, which it was. It's going to be available on our website tomorrow, so you will be able to share that with any friends or clients, etc., who may be interested in seeing this. But yeah, if there's any other questions that you have right now, feel free to drop those into the Q&A. I'd be more than happy to answer those. But yeah, it looks like a lot of those have already been answered anyway. So. And yeah, I don't see anybody typing, so I presume there's no questions. So thank you very much. Hopefully you found this useful. And again, if you do want to book a demo, feel free to do that, or get going with the trial. Otherwise, hopefully see you on the next webinar. And thank you very much. Take care.